Hello, I am Rodwaldo and I am a Filipino. I'm happy with it. I appreciate the Philippines because of its global influence. Yeah, but mostly, yes. Okay, so we got the art. Yeah, the Philippines got art, and I like the styles. Yeah. How they paint, and Filipino artists, like their sculptures, really beautiful. Like, yeah, it goes with the energy. A really nice home design for it. Okay, so for other types of art, Filipinos are really good with music, painting, dancing. Yeah, and actually I just researched like about singing. Actually, one pure Filipino guy in America in X Factor. The judges were shocked because of her nice voice. So that's a proof that Filipinos were really good at singing. That sometimes, talented. Okay, so because we got creativity, and we also got our strength in our hearts, like Filipinos before, our fellow Filipinos before, when the Spaniards came here, the Americans came here, the Japanese came here to colonize this country, and we fight against them with our heart to free this country. Now, because of our fellow Filipinos before, this country is free, and also we got high respect and hospitality with other people, with other Filipinos, not only with our fellow Filipinos, but other foreigners, and that's all. And also, I'm gonna let you watch a video, the issues and some of it are how I appreciate the Philippines. So thank you for watching.
Since 2012, the Philippines and China have gone head-to-head over the ownership of the Spratly Islands in the South China Sea. These islands are important stopover points along nautical shipping lines, and both countries have bolstered their navies in preparation for a fight over these territories. Recently, a Chinese Coast Guard vessel even reportedly used a water cannon on a Philippine fishing boat for operating in the disputed region. This got us thinking, could the Philippines actually defend itself against China? How powerful is the Philippines? Well, the Philippines has a geographically powerful position, both militarily and economically. Since the nation is essentially a collection of large and small islands, it has no shared land borders. This gives them a defensive edge against any possible attacks. Also, the Philippines happens to be almost exactly at the center of trade routes between many other large nations, namely China, Japan, and Australia. In addition to a profitable trade industry, the Philippines has a strong agricultural sector, and they are leading producers of coconuts, rice, and pineapples. They also have a growing retail and customer service industry with about 53% employed in the field. Companies in telecommunications, hospitality, and food services are growing fast. Although the Philippines isn't nearly as wealthy as some of its neighbors, the country is known for its rapid economic growth and has been called an up-and-coming Asian tiger. With a GDP of $272 billion, the Philippines could soon rival the bustling economies of Singapore and Malaysia. The Philippines has a huge population with more than 100 million citizens. That's as if 3 times the population of Canada was stuffed inside the state of Arizona. The nation's capital, Manila, alone has almost 13 million residents, making it one of the largest megacities on the planet. One of the most popular Filipino citizens is Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao grew up in poverty but went on to become a boxing icon and a dominating force in pop culture, politics, and other sports. Although around 25% of the population still lives in poverty, Pacquiao is a huge source of inspiration for many Filipinos. His upcoming fight against Floyd Mayweather is expected to captivate the entire country. Millions of fans will be tuning in and rooting for Pacquiao in what's being called the fight of the century. In fact, the crime rate of the Philippines has been known to drop significantly during his boxing matches. The Philippines has a significant military, reportedly 220,000 active frontline personnel, but their equipment remains outdated. Globally, the country's military ranks 40th in the world. Compared to China, with more than 2 million active soldiers and the second highest rate of expenditures on defense in the world, the Philippine Army appears lacking. However, the Philippines has a secret weapon: the United States. The two countries have had friendly diplomatic and economic relations since World War II, and in 2014, both signed an enhanced defense cooperation agreement. If China chooses to attack the Philippines over the Spratly Islands, the U.S. will step in. Therefore, by association, the Philippines is a moderately powerful nation, and it has a promising economic future. If you want to find out more about Manny Pacquiao, his big fight on May 2nd, and more about his political role in the country, check out this video from our friends at TYT Sports.
What are you expecting to see from Manny Pacquiao in this fight?
Obviously, the first thing you're going to see is his speed. You know, his hand speed. Everyone loves and talks about Manny Pacquiao's hand speed, but the thing that I noticed the most is his footwork. Incredible footwork, creating angles while punching.
Thanks for watching Test Tube. We'll see you tomorrow. In May of 2015, China issued multiple warnings to a U.S. surveillance plane. They asserted that the U.S. had flown over their artificial islands in the South China Sea unprovoked. In response, the U.S. defended their reconnaissance flight in light of China's aggressive claims over the disputed area. So what's going on? Why is the South China Sea so important? Well, for starters, the South China Sea is one of the most highly disputed regions in the world. The roughly 1.5 million square mile zone is bordered by China, Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, Taiwan, and Vietnam. All have overlapping claims over different parts of the region. Most significantly, China has asserted its sovereignty over nearly the entire South China Sea, violating the exclusive economic zones of every bordering country. Most of those countries also have competing claims over a number of nearby islands, primarily the Paracel and Spratly Islands. So why are all these countries fighting over this region? Well, for starters, the South China Sea is the second most used sea lane in the world and hosts a third of all overseas shipping. It also represents a third of the world's marine biodiversity, meaning that fishing rights are heavily disputed as well. But perhaps most importantly, beneath the sea of water is a massive sea of oil and natural gas. Some estimates have suggested that there are about 28 billion barrels worth of oil under the seabed, along with around 266 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. So who really owns the area? Well, China claims that they've owned the Paracel and Spratly Islands, including the surrounding waters, since the 3rd century. Archaeological finds from the 5th century support this claim. However, Vietnam says that they officially documented their rights to the islands back in the 17th century. This is well before China legally staked its claim in the 19th century. The Philippines, on the other hand, claim dominion based on proximity, as the Spratly Islands are closest to them. Meanwhile, Malaysia and Brunei have used the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea to say that their exclusive economic zones give them rights to parts of the South China Sea. This dispute has led to a number of island invasions and battles, mostly between China and Vietnam. In the 70s and 80s, China twice fought Vietnam over the islands and killed more than 100 soldiers and sailors in total. Then, in 2012, China created an administrative body in the Paracel Islands in spite of Vietnam and the Philippines. 2 years later, they began drilling for oil in Vietnam's disputed area. China's aggressive actions have created a strong sense of conflict between the Southeast Asian countries, and even with U.S. diplomatic intervention, it doesn't seem as though China is willing to back down. There's a ship patrolling in the South China Sea that's been active since World War II, protecting Philippine waters from the Chinese reach. To learn more about this fascinating vessel, check out Seeker's video right here.
Today we're asking the 5 W's about this. A dilapidated World War II ship, which is actually still active and currently camped out in the middle of the ocean.
Thanks for watching Test Tube. Don't forget to subscribe.
In the past 2 years, the Philippines had to keep some 50 shipping containers of rotting garbage from Canada in the port of Manila. But now the garbage may finally be leaving the port, but without going anywhere outside the Philippines. CCTV's Barnaby Lowe tells us that's raised even more concern among environmentalists.
Basura, basura! They say it was as if their voices were not heard. For more than 2 years, these environmentalists have lobbied for the return of some 50 container vans of garbage from Canada sitting and rotting in the port of Manila. Now, the trash is finally leaving the port, but not to be transported back to its origin.
Throughout this controversy, the Canadian government has stood firm in its stance to not ship the trash back to Canada, saying the shipment was a commercial matter to be settled privately. Well, it appears now that they are going to have it their way after all.
The trash is staying in the Philippines. The government says it's found nothing toxic or hazardous in the shipment and has determined it's best to dump the tons of Canadian waste in local landfills.
If we pursue this option of shipping back the waste, and Canada would not accept it, so our remedy is to file a case in the international court. So can you imagine how long will it take to resolve the issue? At the end of the day, when litigations will be ongoing, end of the day, the waste is still there, rotting, and then.
It is the most practical solution, according to the Philippine government. But environmentalists aren't buying the argument.
This is garbage, and as a country, we can never accept garbage. We are not a garbage dump of any country, and Canada should recognize that. And our government agencies should stand up for the Filipino people and ask Canada, demand that these waste should be re-exported to their country.
The chances of that happening, however, is almost zero. The government expects court clearance for its plan to dispose the trash locally soon. But officials assure those responsible will not go unpunished. Barnaby Low, CCTV, Manila.